Welcome to In Conversation, a platform powered by Grownish Woes, where we dive deep into the real stories behind careers, calling, and purpose. You're tuned into our My World of Work segment, a space where we spotlight professionals from different industries who generously share their journeys, insights, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Today, I'm honored to be in conversation with Ayanda Bam, a highly experienced criminal investigation specialist with over a decade in the finance and tax industry. He currently serves as the investigations manager, ethics and compliance at Barlow World Limited. Ayanda's career path is rooted in financial investigation, compliance, and public sector accountability. And today, we are unpacking the mindset, milestones, and motivations behind it all. So, whether you're a student exploring your career options or a young professional trying to find your footing, this conversation is for you. Ayanda, welcome to Conversation. How are you feeling today?
Thanks, Tabiso. Good morning good morning to your viewers. I'm all right. Just a little bit taken aback that you've chosen me to be part of this series. But yeah, nonetheless, I'm all good. Thanks. It's bam, bam, bam.
Uh,
Yeah, no problem.
So let's start right at the beginning. What did you study and what led you down that path in the first place?
So I'm basically from the Eastern Cape in Umtata. I was born in Umtata, born raised, studied high school there as well. And then I moved into varsity. I did my BCom accounting at the University of Fort Hare in East London. So yeah, I think it was one of those, I think the career path chose me. I did not choose it. I've always wanted to, I think, be a psychologist. I thought I would, have been a practicing psychologist by now. But I suppose life led me to that path because accounting was a subject I did in high school. And so it was sort of easier to navigate into that space. And obviously, with the influence of parents, I got into it and I just had to make it work until I got the degree. Yeah. So that's what I studied.
Oh, you studied accounting.
Yeah, become financial accounting.
Okay. So looking back now, do you feel like those studies prepared you for what you're doing today, or was the real learning something that happened later on the workplace?
So I think everything that you learn in life to be so, prepares you for something. It depends on how, open are you're so because in as much as it wasn't necessarily my choice, I had to make it work, and there were lessons, the great lessons that have prepared me for the workplace. And I think also because I lost my mom at second year, so didn't have the option of tiptoeing around and changing courses. So I just had to make this work. Then obviously the urgency to just find a job after work was also one of those. But definitely great lessons. I would say to people, just a small course in financial management can help you because you're gonna become an adult. You're gonna go into the world of work. You need to know how to manage your money. You need to know the world, how the world works, and that's what the degree prepared me for. And yeah, so definitely, in as much as it was not my first choice, but there were great lessons there.
I understand what you're saying. You've worked in finance, compliance, and criminal investigations. What made you gravitate specifically towards the investigations and ethics space?
So also that again, life is weird like that. I think I was just looking for a job. You know how you've recently just graduated and you just like, okay, I need to make an income, and then I joined the revenue services as they had a graduate program. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. It's a job. It was specifically targeted for young people who would join that space, the investigation space. And I think that's when I got introduced into the whole investigations, that whole, forum. And we were taken through a 3-year graduate program, which was quite intense. And I suppose it enabled me then to learn because sometimes we would like to rush, when we get into spaces in the career space. We want 1 years, 2 years, and then you just want to move up the ladder. But the 3 years really gave us the opportunity because obviously we were fresh out of varsity. We knew nothing about the world of work. So it exposed us to quite a lot. And there was like a very structured program for the 3 years. So I think from a technical point of view, it gave us the skills to be able to navigate that space. Yeah. And then from then onwards, I was just convinced. I was like, cool, okay, I think this is something I can work with. I like it. I love navigating because it's fact finding. So it's navigating, trying to correct the wrongs and trying to find the answers, So and also working with people as well, which also then sort of brought in the whole psychology of it because I think the reason I always wanted to do psychology is because I love working with people. I love understanding the mind. There was also that aspect of it because when you do investigation, you interact with people. You sort of try and navigate around, sort of, you look at the cues, whether someone is lying or not. But yeah, I think it was a great 3 year journey. In as much as at the time it didn't feel like it, it felt like you're wasting time, other people, because obviously other peers into full-time jobs, they seem to be far ahead. But for me, that was the learning phase, preparing me to where I am right now. Yeah.
So was it an internship?
Yeah, it was yes, they call it a graduate program, but it was an internship for 3 years. Then after that, we, obviously absorbed full time, and
Okay.
again, yeah, and again, you have to start from scratch, which is another thing that people don't understand is that you are first an intern, you get into organization as an intern, so we are obviously, starting afresh. And then they absorb you, and then obviously you get into a junior position. So then again, you have to, I think that's where I learned the importance of always starting afresh, always having that mindset of, because what you learned there, you're about to learn something new again. So you need to sort of clear your mind and be open to learning new things. So, and then that's when I sort of, you are paired with a mentor and you sort of navigate the space.
Oh, you also get a mentor. That's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I think I was fortunate enough that I had somebody who was quite keen in teaching me, and sort of an older gentleman who was about to retire. So who was like, look, I will teach you everything I know. I have no qualms. I just want you to do the work, and a very strict gentleman as well. So he did that, and yeah, I mean, it was like, if I can use the metaphor of being, thrown into the fire, because every single day I had to answer questions I wasn't prepared for, and if I didn't know the answer, I had to go out there and research. Very uncomfortable. I think all learnings are uncomfortable, but it's only in hindsight when you look back and like, oh, okay. So this was preparing me for something.
Shout out to your mentor. Yeah, shout out to him.
Yeah.
He did a
Yeah.
wonderful
Now
job.
he's retired now, but we still keep in touch. But he was like, when you get into the workspace, you have your work mom, work dad type of thing. So it was like a family where people were just dedicated to teaching you, and just wanted you to be the best that you can be. And then I'm truly thankful that I had people, because I mean, you hear stories in the workplace of how people don't want to share knowledge, but that for me has never been my experience.
So was there a moment maybe during your studies or one of your first roles when you just knew this is what I want to do?
So I think with accounting, when I was doing, I mean, the degree, of course, I fell in love with, obviously, because you've got three majors. You've got accounting, you've got financial management, you've got tax, you've got auditing. So I sort of fell in love with tax and auditing. So in as much as I knew that this, wasn't, but then those two, I think, were my saving grace. I was like, okay, I'm not actually in the wrong space altogether. because I love auditing, I love taxation. So those two, I think they sort of gave me the thrill and the confidence to just see the degree through and just to know that, I mean, I could connect. I mean, when you are dealing with a subject matter and you find that you can connect with it. So I could connect with it, I could understand it. It was easier for me to be able to, to articulate it and to be able to, do well in it. Think during those studies for my first degree, because that's not the only degree I have. So for my undergrad, I think those two were my saving grace for me to sort of understand that I'm not entirely in the wrong space.
You said it's not the only degree that you have. Which other degrees do you have?
So yeah, so when I started working, obviously had a bit of freedom to sort of find out now, okay, what do I want to do? And I decided to go pursue my psychology. So I've got an honors in psychology from UNISA. So which I funded my because I was like, ah man, I've got now I'm allowed, I'm a bit older, I'm allowed to do what I want to do. And lo and behold, this is something that's quite relevant again to the work that I do, because moving from the criminal space into the ethics space, you have to deal with people, you have to have compassion, you have to have empathy, you have to know how to hold space when someone is breaking down in front of you and you're trying to solicit some form of information. Psychology was quite relevant. So that was my sort of gift for myself. And again, the whole journey in doing it was phenomenal because I was happy doing it. And I knew that again, I'm like, okay, this is also I'm also headed in the right direction, in the sense that I didn't really struggle studying it. It was like just
Yeah.
opening a book and just reading for fun and then just going to the exam and passing. But obviously then juggling that with the work was a bit challenging, but I definitely enjoyed.
So there's a chance that one day you might drop being what you're doing now and pursue psychology.
Look, I always say in life, never say never, because I think I'm living proof that you can set out on a journey to go left, and then life literally throws you, in a totally different direction. You find that okay, this seems okay. So I'm always open in the way that I navigate my career, I navigate my life. I set out a plan, but my plan is not too rigid, because I also want to allow life to be able to sort of, guide me, to where, it could be, my greatest good as well. So perhaps I could get into consulting. But I think what's important is that they need, because I always say that I don't believe in this thing of being one thing. So if I can be a psychologist and still consult as an investigation expert. I don't believe in those things can be true at the same time. So I don't really believe in limiting myself in terms of what I can do. But then I need to understand. So perhaps also in one of your questions you were asking how I navigate my life is I ask myself, what do I want to do and why do I want to do it? So if I'm able to answer the why, then I'm able then to chart for the roadmap towards where I want to go. So as long as the why for me makes sense, and also is also in the companies I choose to work for, I look at the why the company exists, what is its purpose, does it align to who I am at my core? And then we can start talking, because then if not, then it just becomes just a job, and then I get bored, and yeah, and it's just not how I want to exist in this world.
I see. You've now spent over a decade in this space. What has kept you
Yeah.
so committed to the work of investigations?
Hey, and it's the why it's a piece. So, and then working for the revenue service, you understand, because I mean that's where I spent the bulk of my career at. You understand if you understand why the institution exists, you understand that it runs the country. You understand that if people don't pay their taxes, then the country doesn't run, schools aren't built, government doesn't function, clinics aren't built, our grandparents don't get to receive their pensions. So for me, that's the why. Then it then determines my commitment to ensure that I put in my best foot forward to ensure that, whatever it is that I'm working on, I'm doing it to the best of my ability so that I'm able to recover that which was stolen, quote unquote, so to speak. Because that's
Okay.
the nature. That's the nature without getting obviously into detail. Because part of the work that we do is predominantly is discreet and confidential but without obviously because the sort of mystery around it. But I think we need to start talking about it with obviously without giving too much, but obviously try and because there's young people, coming up who think, the work is glamorous and but we need to talk about it without, obviously breaking confidentialities and secrecy provisions and
Okay. So, with the 10 years experience that you have, how would you define leadership in the world of criminal investigations today?
so for me, and that's something I learned, when I was, because I mean, I think after 5 years, I left SARS at some point, and then I came back again, and I then obviously started being exposed to a bit of leadership seminars here and there, and
Yeah.
then for me. I always say we are all leaders, right? And because you lead yourself first and foremost, without even going into the world of work, you lead yourself. You have to wake up and do what you need to do for the day, whatever that is. So then into the world of work and into the world of investigation, for me, I would define leadership as a steward. A steward is somebody who holds something on behalf of another and who leaves it better than they found them. So for me, that's what leadership is. So leadership is because obviously sometimes it's in the corporate space, it's termed into management. So you're given a role. So whatever role you are given, that role is not yours. You are serving in it. And when you leave that role, you need to leave that role better than what you've found it. So that when the next person comes in, there are processes in place that will assist the organization so that the organization can function better. So it's not about yourself, it's about serving in the space that you are in. And hence, even for me, I've had to redefine how I think about work. So I don't think about work as working. I always say I served in this position because for me it's serving. It's serving. Because when I leave the position, I want to leave the position better than I found it so that there can be some form of progress and those things work together. So when I serve well, and then that also means that my CV looks good, and then for me it gives me the confidence to do what I do to the best of my ability. So for me, that's what leadership is holding a certain position or a platform that is not yours and that you leave it better than you found it.
Okay, I see, I understand. If you had the chance to go back and give your younger self a bit of career advice, something you wish you knew earlier, what would you say?
Well, that's an interesting one. I think I'd first personally tell my younger self that I'll be okay because I lost my mom at second year. So there was always a constant anxiety and an uncertainty of what the future holds. Because obviously now there was no sort of primary provider in my life. So I'd go back and tell him that you'll be okay and that you'll find your space and you'll find that which you love doing. It might not look like how you had envisioned it, but it will feel good and you will see that you're making progress. So I would tell Ayanda to stop being anxious from a young age and just relax and know that it's all well. You'll be okay.
The next question is for the young ones. For someone who's curious about this field, nah, maybe they are
Mm.
passionate about justice, ethics, or financial crime,
Yeah.
but they're not sure where to start. What kind of advice would you offer?
Yeah, that's also a tricky one. So look, investigation is very broad. So I think you have to navigate and understand what it is that you want. Again, ask yourself, where do you want to, which space? Because there's investigations in the insurance space. There's fraud, purely fraud investigations. There's, where I am now, ethics and compliance. So I think around what it is that you want to do and just navigate it. Do some research around investigations in general in the workplace. And then perhaps, a degree or some form of qualification, finance qualification would help, or a law degree would help, or some form of forensic degree. That also could be, because I know with these companies, when, like an entry level is some form of finance or some form of law degree. And then I think then one of the most important things that you need to have, especially if you want to venture into criminal investigations or financial fraud, there's a certification program called Certified Fraud Examiner. It's an international certification by the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. So that's a very good one to have, because it exposes you to not just financial crime locally, but from a global perspective. And you join a team of network of people that are also in the field that you can share and engage ideas on. Because it's very important, because this field can feel very lonely. So you need to have peers in the same space that you can share ideas with, that you can, talk about the latest trends and what we can do better, because this is not a job you can do alone. So you need the right people to assist you. You need to partner with certain people in order to, to achieve the desired result. So we call it a CFE. So anyone who's in the field would know. A CFE is totally one of those things that will make you stand out. Another certification, because I think once you get the degree right, the basics, then you need to think about certifications, because certifications are very important, because most of these are internationally recognized. So then you can join a global company, because now I am serving in a global company that is, obviously it's a listed company with operations in the rest of Africa and in other international countries. So having a certification program that not only speaks to South Africa but speaks to the entire world then becomes relevant. And also which I have as well. So and it's quite, I'm talking from experience. So it's something that will assist you. And then there's also another one for especially people in the banking sector who want to venture into the banking sector and maybe want to do, anything with anti-money laundering. There's an anti-money laundering certification that also is internationally recognized that they can get in. So I think those from a degree or qualification perspective, look around that. I think you will not get lost if you look around those things and just ensure that you have the basics right. But obviously, over and above that, can take away experience, Tabi. So
Yeah.
experience is the school of life. You can have all the degrees in the world, but you need to spend time at work doing something. You need to have some experience. You need to be open to start from the bottom, to navigate, the space yourself, because that is how you get to build yourself and build your self-confidence. It's just by doing the work.
You mentioned multiple certificates to pursue. Can a person who just finished high school get those certificates, or they have to get a degree first?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So they have certain requirements. That's why I'm saying start with the degree or whatever forensic certificate you want. Also, also have, I think with the certified fraud examiners, I think they require about 2 or 3 years experience in a field of work. So you can put it as a sort of mid to long year plan, because part of that is getting into the market, is doing the work, and then 2 to 3 years, then you can then venture into the certifications, because they are practical in nature. So you won't understand it if you don't have the experience of the work.
Okay, hey, the journey is it's more like the CA one. It's very long. It might take 7 years.
And any journey, Sabiso, is long, but that's why I always say understand the why. There's no shortcuts, unfortunately. I'm 36 years old, and I mean, when I'm delusional, sometimes I always say, I'm supposed to be far, but no, 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 no. You have to do the work, and it's only now where I'm understanding that the work I've put in over the years is starting to bear fruit now. So there are no shortcuts in life, and you can always tell when a person hasn't really done the work. There are some who get opportunities through other means, and then we get to deliberate, and you can see when a person hasn't really done the work. So there's no shortcuts, unfortunately. But then it's important to understand the why, because the why is the one that makes things easier. It makes you want to wake up and show up at work every day because you understand the bigger perspective, the bigger picture of why you are doing what you are doing. Because also coming into work to just, push papers also doesn't work.
I like what you said. You need to know your why. So now let's bring it back closer to what you do every day. What does a typical day look like for you as an investigations manager?
So yeah, man, typical day meetings, just sort of seeing the progress in the work that we do, collaboration with, stakeholders, whether internally or externally, the typical, yeah, just check in meetings. And I think most of that is also just doing the work, interviewing people, which is witnesses or whatever you may call it. Yeah, that's the bulk of that is spent doing that, and also reviewing reports. And because sometimes you are the one doing the report, sometimes other people are doing reports, so we have to spend a bit of time reviewing that, determine the accuracy, and just ensure that all flows well, and obviously guiding the interns into the workplace in terms of explaining to them the do's and the don'ts. It to just take them through the training, because I always say there was someone for me who was there when I was fresh out of varsity. So
So now you're there for someone.
I will never not say no when, there's an intern in our department who needs guidance and assistance. And also just take the person along through the journey. So if you're going to go out and do whatever you want to do from a work perspective, you take them along so that they understand the journey they are there. Because as I said, experience is the ultimate teacher. So they need to be there to see what you do, how you do it, and ask questions, you explain to them. So yeah, yeah, that's pretty much a typical day. And sometimes you plan that this is what I'm gonna do, and then something comes up, and then yeah, and then your day just goes, straight out of the bin, and then you have to sort of be agile. I think agility is important, to be able to be agile enough to, sort of, if this is what the business needs right now, then okay, cool, let's do that. I'm called into a meeting odds, and that was not on my diary. You can't say no. You just need to show up. If you need to listen, or if you need to, say a few things, you do that, and just assist as much as you can. So yeah.
I'm happy that you're paying it forward. You are investing in the future, the young ones
Yeah,
also.
and definitely, man, definitely, because it's corporate sometimes can be a bit in that, because I always say, to me, it is full of people. So corporate is not a person; it is run by people. So if it's run by people who are patient and compassionate to invest in the next generation, because that also speaks to succession as well. Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to leave this space with somebody who's ready to get into it. So that's how succession works. So you can't just want to do everything by yourself and not share information with others. What happens when you are no longer there? Then the business suffers. So there needs to be some form of succession, so that can also find themselves into a space where they feel like they belong, and they understand what they need to do.
So, what's your favorite part of the work? The part that still makes you feel excited to show up?
I think for me, it's so investigations is a sort of, I think it's, I dare to say, just a very quiet form of activism, because activism is all about, righting the wrongs. So with investigations, for me, it's seeing someone who has done injustice, sort of be given, the justice to be done right. So if typically we are talking about, for an instance, a person who was bullied at work, and then, obviously they report that into the office, just seeing that something was done in order for that, for justice to be done for that person, and for the behavior to change on the person who did that, and also for the person to be able to have trust in the process. Because I always say, i- that's what investigations is about. It's about restoring trust in not only the organization, but the process in which the organization has spent money on, being the office in which, you are currently serving, it investigations, criminal, whatever. So when I see that justice has been done for me, then for me it means more than, the day that I get my salary, because then it means that the system is working. And then it also
Yeah.
gives me an opportunity to see what it is that one can do to improve the system better, because a lot of things happen in the workplace that are not supposed to happen. And so when a company invests in these, spaces where there are investigations that are going to be done, because people like saying, we'll do investigations and nothing ever gets done, but you have to do an investigation, and you have to do it promptly. There's a time limit to it. You can't just investigate for years with nothing. Have investigate timeously, understanding that there's an urgency, there's a crisis, something has happened to somebody. So it is a form of quiet activism, because obviously we don't go around on LinkedIn or on social media talking about the specifics of what we do, because integrity is a thing, confidentiality is a thing. So you need to maintain that at all times. But it is a form of quiet activism, because you get to right the wrongs that have been done to somebody.
Uh,
And that for me is my favorite part of the job.
that's awesome. There's often a bit of mystery around what fraud investors actually do. What's one misconception people tend to have about your role?
So people often think it's some sort of glamorous, place where, probably, I don't know. I think also all these movies, American movies, have a role to play in thinking that, there's sort of like, you go into a space and there's all these big screens that you speak to. No, 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 no. That's a mystery. It's just hard work. Sometimes you have to sort through hundreds of documents, and not just sort through, read through them, understand what they mean, and how are they relevant into what you are trying to prove. Because remember, investigations, if there's an allegation that has been made, you have to be able to prove that allegation. In order to do that, you have to get some form of evidence. Then, to get that evidence, you might get a truckload of information. But there is no way that, that there's an AI tool that can tell you this is relevant, this is not relevant. So human intervention, typical sitting down, sorting through that information, going through multiple bank statements if you are doing financial crime, and going through line item by line item, which is often an arduous task that leaves your eyes crying at times because they are tired. So it's tough work, and it's all about precision and paying attention to detail. So if you're another person who doesn't believe in precision and paying attention to detail, then don't join the space, because if you don't do that, then you are missing the mark. Then, as I said earlier, the righting the wrongs, then you're compromising not only yourself and your integrity, but the integrity of the organization as well. So precision, paying attention to detail are very important, and sitting down and just doing the work, man, and going through multiple emails and seeing whether is this relevant or not, and literally reviewing a 200-page report. There's no AI tool. Yes, there might be an AI tool that might summarize the report, but you still need to be able to go through the 200-page report to understand the value of it, and what it means. And so it's precision, as I said, is important.
I see. Yeah, when I saw that you're an investigator, I was like, he carries a gun, this one. It's out there breaking down doors, doing the It's a
No.
cop. Like,
No, 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 no. So I think that's just a collective term. You find investigators everywhere. Hence, I'm saying, I mean, there's in cops are investigators, so you have investigators in corporate as well. So you have to navigate and understand where do you want to be, because it's just a collective term that is used for people who do the work. So sometimes they call them forensic investigators, sometimes they call them due diligence analysts, but it's just about literally ensuring that you investigate a certain fact. We are like fact finders, basically. So separate fact from fiction and providing the evidence. And sometimes it might lead to court. So if you are a person who's interested in criminal investigations, so where there's fraud that has happened, so then there's an extra burden for you to go and sit in a court of law and present your findings and evidence in court. So you need to be ready for that as well. But there's training, I'm sure. I mean, each company provides training and coaching for you to be able to understand. So when you see in the legal, series on TV where somebody, when an expert is being cross-examined and cross-examined, that happens. That happens. So it's just part of the nature of that specific subset of investigations. So you just need to find out and navigate. And sometimes you have to tiptoe and be in this space and be in that space for you to really find what works for you.
I see. So with AI, would you say it has affected the way you do work now?
Look, I would say yes and no. So there's tools that assist with, obviously doing your job faster. So, for an instance, now, I'm assuming we are having an interview right now. So this interview could easily be me trying to find out if you have, did you steal A, B, and C? So the digression is not really what we're interested in. So the AI tools assist then when it summarizes the key themes, right? But then I always say AI is not here to replace humans, because human intervention, especially in investigations, is essential. AI is there to help us do our work faster, maybe, but a bulk of that is human intervention. We can really benefit from, like I'm saying now, an AI tool like your Microsoft Copilot, that can literally, you just prompt, please summarize this report for me. It summarizes that for you, and then you just send it. Obviously, maybe if you are doing a report for like a board, the board doesn't want to look at 200 pages. They just want a key issues in the report. So an AI tool like your Microsoft Pilot helps with that. But in terms of doing the work, you still have to do the work, unfortunately.
Okay, okay. You've worked within both public institutions like SARS and other settings. What would you say has been the biggest contrast between the public and private sector?
Yeah, look, so yeah, I mean, I just left SARS last year, so I'm now in a private space. Yeah, I mean, the pace is different. The pace is very different, I think, to be honest. You have to show up very differently in the private space. Even how you dress up is important. How you articulate yourself and how you show up. As soon as you enter the lift and you meet your colleagues, greeting is important because it talks about the kind of person that you are. Those attributes that aren't tangible, but they are very important. The conversations that you're having with people, you need to know how to read the room, because I think this is something that the young ones, people don't teach them at school. So when you see people coming from varsity, you need to know how to read the room, which speaks to emotional intelligence. You need to know how to navigate your way around a meeting with multiple people across. But the pace is very different from a work and technical point of view. So it's been quite an adjustment for me, because I literally had to show up differently because the demands are greater. And yeah, and you can't sit here and say, no, I can't do this, or no, I don't know this. You must go research, you must go find out what more I can do, because it's just the nature of the beast. It's private sector, and at times when there's deadlines, it's crazy hours. You have to do reports, but I'm not trying to scare people not to come into the private sector. But I'm just saying it is different, though. It is different in the sense that the pace is different. So you have to be very mindful of where you are. You have to be very mindful of the demeanor on how you show up, and you need to. And that's why for me, I always say the work was preparing me for where I am right now, because I've literally never been somebody who's lazy in terms of doing the work. So yes, it's been an adjustment, but from a competency point of view, I haven't struggled all that much, because for me, wanting to do more has always been part of my psyche. So I see what we are doing right now, but then let's try and be creative and look towards the future, because especially in the private sector, because anything that happens, the global environment affects the share price, because we are in a limited company. So the war with Iran and Iraq, and all of those things, and Russia, those play a role, because we have an operation in Russia as well. So those things affect our share prices, and they affect the world of work. And these are things that now you need to start thinking about. You are no longer just in your own little corner. There's a whole view and a whole world that is opened up for you. And you need to understand that you need to read about these things. You need to read the news, because sometimes I was never a person, like the news depress me. But I need to read about them, because I need to understand, how do these things affect, the company I work for, and how do they affect how I show up in my work, so that then I can start plotting and charting a way forward in terms of what do we do, what do we do, because that's the when because I always say, when you have a problem and you have a challenge, you always ask yourself, what should we do? So my question is always around, what more can we do better? So it is a bit of a transition. It's not impossible. Anyone can do it, but you just need to be willing to put in the extra work in order for you to remain, at par with your colleagues in the space.
The work you do is high pressure and ethically complex. How do you stay grounded and keep yourself centered in the middle of it all?
So that's a very important question, and I think I remember in one of my interviews, my hiring manager asked me a question. So, what do you do for self-care? And I was taken aback, because I mean, which manager asks an interview like that? Like a question like that. It sounds silly, but then I understood, because it's high pressure, you deal with people's problems. And I think she was emphasizing the importance of self-care. So I run a lot after a hard day. I take off the stress on the streets. I run. And the weekend, I run a lot as well. I run half marathons. But I think more than anything else, I try and relax as much as I can, because my brain is always constantly on. So sometimes I need to find ways to switch it off, whether, go for a massage, sit down and read a book that is not related to what I do, because I'm an avid reader as well. So I like reading. So sometimes reading a book that has nothing to do with what you do, that will just take your mind into a different world and transport you into a different world. So any form of self-care, go for a massage, just go out and play, connect with the child within, because come Monday, you have to be an adult. So any form of, relaxation that helps me connect with my inner child is very important.
Okay, that's very good. Looking at the time now, ne, and I'm thinking, ish, I told Ayanda that the interview is gonna be 30 minutes, but now it's like 15 minutes. I don't want to take too much of your time. Can I just ask you two more questions?
No, no, no problem. Go ahead.
When you look ahead, maybe just over the next year or so, what are you hoping to achieve or contribute, either personally or professionally?
Oh, that's a interesting question. Look, I always say, I always wish, and perhaps, let me not say wish, it's something that I wanna do maybe in the next 5 to 6 years, maybe just take a sabbatical, I think that's important, even if it's a 3 month or 6 month sabbatical, where it can either be a sabbatical for me to just travel. Just, yeah, and just because I think there's something that travel does to you. It was as you leave our Tambo International and you go into a different space. When you come back, you're never the same because you get exposed to many different things. So I think personally, I want to do that. I think also professionally, obviously growing within the ranks, but more than that, I think I always say when I speak to my friends that, obviously part of working, you get remunerated, you get money. So for me, I want to use money to buy me time because I think it's time is very important for me, and I spend my time. Even people who are close to me can tell you how a bit selfish I am of my time. So I want my money to buy me the time to decide what I want to do, right? So whether it's sitting at one board or two boards and a bit of consulting here and there, or maybe academia, who knows? But as long as in the future that will give me the time to do the things I want to do, because I love waking up in the morning and deciding that today I'm just going to have my coffee, sit and reflect and do absolutely nothing, right? So that's important because that's also part of self-care because we live in a very crazy, world where we are constantly anxious. And that affects our brains and our brain chemistry is changed a lot by that. And for somebody who studies psychology, I understand the importance of mental health and mental wellness. So I want to be able to use this experience. And it's the reason why when I do something, I do it sort of thrust into it and immerse myself into it so much, such that later on, when I look back, I want all this experience I have now and everything that I've contributed to work towards me getting my time back to do the things I want to do later on in life. Think I can without speaking about because the roles, yes, the roles are important. I can be an executive and that's important, but I'm sort of looking past that. I'm looking into how can I get my time back? How can I be able to wake up and decide what I want to do with my time? Yes, I'll still have commitments, but I don't want to drown in commitments. I want to be able to use what I've done with my career, what I've done with the experience that I have in order for me to be able to get my time back later on in life. I think that's the best way I can answer it. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. It makes sense. Here's my last question. If we fast forward far into the future, what kind of legacy would you like to leave in the world of compliance, ethics, and investigations?
So that's also another question that's difficult to answer, right? Because remember, we live in so you have to look at everything in context, right? So we live in a world that is affected by the political climate, that is affected by whether or not Trump decides to, impose tariffs or not. So my legacy is every single life I touch every day, every contribution I make every day. Yes, I would like to write a book one day, but that could be some form of legacy. But I suppose it's the life I'm living right now because I don't know if I'm gonna be here in the next 10 years. Yes, I want to be, but all I'm saying is that sometimes we like talking about legacy as if it's something that you can only do later on in life. So I just want to challenge maybe you and everyone else who might be listening to start thinking about legacy as these small acts of things you do every single day. So when I get into the office and speak to somebody, I want to leave them seen and felt and heard by me because then that changes the energy of how they show up as well. So that's legacy because you've made some form of impact on somebody on the day. And also in the work that I do from a process and procedure point of view, what you change right now in terms of what's not going right. It's some form of legacy because it makes the job for anyone else who's going to do it easier. So I think in every time you show up every single day and every life that you interact with and you leave them better is some form of legacy. I don't want to get into this whole cliche about no, I want to have 5 kids. I want to be the CEO of this and that. Because it's then saying you are leaving legacy for the future, but you are existing now in the present, and your legacy should be also equate to the present moment. So every time I have interactions with people, be it family, be it strangers, I want to leave everybody feeling, even if they are not feeling better, maybe challenge them to think beyond what they thought they could think. That's also a legacy. So for me, that's the kind of legacy I want. If 10 strangers have to be in the same room who have interacted with me and they talk about me and it's anything positive, then that's my legacy. And I think that's
And I want to thank you for your time and for sharing the knowledge that you have with us. I think we can set you free now. Is there anything you want to share with the people? Maybe something you want to promote or a mentorship program? Anything?
No, no, not really, man. Look, I can always say to people and I know it's tough out there. I know we are facing a lot of unemployment in the country.
Yeah.
And I can only sympathize, especially because I know I'm speaking from privilege, right? So from a point of privilege, because I work, and that's why I was sharing my journey in the beginning, because I wanted people to understand that I don't come from money. My mother used to work at Spa, and then she passed away, and I'm an only child. But I want people to understand that the point of sharing these stories is to understand that anything is possible in life, right? And you just need to hang in there. You just need to hang in there and just keep doing the work. And sometimes doing the work feels like doing the same thing over and over and over again without seeing the results, but the results do show. You just need to look around. If you are doing the work hard enough and you're being consistent, you will get somewhere somehow. It might not be what you had envisioned, but you do get somewhere somehow. So people need to hang in there, especially the young ones going into the world of work. I think you just need to do your best. You need to show up. You need to ask questions. You need to be proactive. You need to ask yourself constantly, ask for feedback. What can I do more? How can I contribute more? Because then that makes you stand out from anyone who is leading you in that space. So, and yeah, and I wish everybody all the best, man.
Once again, Ayanda, thank you for giving us your time. Very much
No problem.
appreciated.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Taviso.